afternoon. Welcome to this session on the digital utilities for energy transition. We are glad to see another full house here. In this session, we aim to explore how AI and digitalization can help utilities leapfrog to modern, resilient, and more importantly, people-centric transitions. DUET is about building the digital platform of energy transition, data platforms, digital twins, and interoperable tools that enable better planning. Over the next hour, we will hear from the experts who are here from utilities, partners who are turning this vision into concrete pilots and scalable models in India and in Brazil, and how the learnings from these pilots can be passed on to the broader global south. Let me just first invite Ms. Isabel Beltran, who heads GAP's work in Latin America and Caribbean region. She brings a wealth of experience of working with multilateral banks and philanthropies and has an eye for interventions that can be scaled. Isa, if I can please invite you for the note.
Good afternoon. Closer. Better? Okay. Dear guests and colleagues that are here today, thank you for coming. A warm welcome to this session about the digitalization of utilities for the energy transition DUET. This is organized jointly by the International Solar Alliance that is hosting us here today, the Sequoia Climate Foundation, and the Global Energy Alliance for People and Planet, whom I represent. It is a privilege to be here with you in Brazil, a country that showcases the opportunities and the challenges of the energy transition. At GAP, we are very proud to be a partner of the International Solar Alliance Multi-Donor Trust Fund, which is a collaborative platform designed to accelerate solar energy transitions, strengthen innovation, and build institutional capacity in the global south. We are especially delighted to have Sequoia Climate Foundation as one of the anchor partners for this multi-donor trust fund. As we know, energy access is not a privilege, it's a fundamental right. And it is the foundation of economic development. Across Latin America and the Caribbean, which is the region that I represent, we can showcase what can be achieved. As a region, we have a very high renewable energy percentage in our energy matrix, and we have achieved highest, if not almost 100% levels of universal access, and emphasis in almost, because we still have a gap. The region has one of the strongest solar resources, yet we have a lot of challenges. Climate vulnerability is affecting our region very strongly. We still have 17 million people in the region that do not have access to energy. And if we land that in Brazil, we have about 1 million people in the Amazon that do not have access to energy, and about 3 million people that have unreliable access that depends on diesel. Closing this gap demands modernizing our power systems alongside capacity expansion. And I think this is where innovation brings new hope and opportunities. Digital storage technologies are transforming utilities into more efficient, responsive, and resilient systems. While battery energy storage can bring stability, artificial intelligence enables real-time monitoring, forecasting, predictive maintenance, and other benefits. We're seeing these collaborations rise to the opportunity. Collaborations like the one we have with ISA and Sequoia, but also other examples on the region. We're working with the Inter-American Development Bank and other partners in bringing battery energy storage to the Caribbean islands that depend on diesel and that are frequently the ones most affected by the heavy storms of climate change. Locally in the host country, we're also working with the government of Brazil to make sure that their efforts on universal access and decarbonization are paired with ways to allow the communities to use energy productively so that energy becomes really a key and a pathway to economic development. We're also, through India's Energy Transition Innovation Challenge and TIES, we're helping nurture a new generation of entrepreneurs whose ideas could define what the energy transition is and what artificial intelligence for energy transition means. So, these initiatives and these collaborations reminds us that beyond the technology and the technology innovations, this transformation really demands collaboration and a shared purpose between all of the agencies, most of them here at COP, that have this goal of the just energy transition as a purpose. We gather here today and we have the opportunity to really collectively shape what digitalization and what AI agenda means for the global south and make sure that we can share for the rest of the regions. Through our collaborative efforts, we can align our strengths and make sure that inclusion is at the core of what we do. Before we begin the session, I will leave you with one thought. The grids we build today are not just infrastructure. They are about people, they are about opportunity, dignity, shared progress. We are building a future for education, healthcare, businesses that thrive, and that electricity is provided not just in daylight hours. So I'll pass it over to Nidhi. Have an amazing panel, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Isa, for that overview and context. May I please now invite Mayank, who's working on a very interesting intervention that we are doing in the state of Rajasthan in India. This homegrown startup is working very closely with the utility to create a digital twin, and how AI enablement of that digital twin is helping us to create different use cases, which is bringing in more efficiencies into the system. Mayank, if I may just pass it on to you.
Thank you so much, Nidhi, for that introduction. Hello. Yeah. Uh, First and foremost, we are deeply indebted to our partners, Rockefeller Foundation, GAP, ISA, NRL, uh, B- BRPL, which is one of the largest discoms in India, JVBNL, this is another large discom in India, and the CEO of BRPL, Mr. Abhishek, is sitting here on the panel with us. And of course, my name is Mayank, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Edge Electra. So let me start by saying, what are we actually doing? Edge Electra is essentially an AI-powered grid digitalization and energy transition product, right? What we help distribution companies and power utility companies do is create a digital twin infrastructure for the entire distribution grid. Distribution grids are very complicated. They have a very large volume of transformers, customers, poles, feeders, and many other complex infrastructure involved, right? There are many different definitions of digital twin, but the way we explain it is that how do you virtualize the exact replica of a physical distribution grid? What that means is, how do you digitize every pole, every transformer, every substation, every consumer meter, and more and more and more. Every asset usually has anywhere between 30 to 50 different attributes. What is an attribute? For an example, when we digitize a pole, we take data points such as what is the height of a pole? What kind of pole is this? Is this a concrete pole or a wooden pole? Does it have pin insulators, disc insulators? What is the make and model of the pole? What is the manufacturing date of the pole? And things like that. What this data acquisition does is it powers many different kinds of analytics for a discom on top of this digitization effort, right? So that is what is the meaning of digital twin. You are effectively creating a digital world of the physical grid, distribution grid in particular. This, once you are done with this exercise, once you are done with the base digitization effort, and you have to integrate all the different sensors that are available to the discom. Sensors are smart meters on transformers, feeders, consumer meters, or any other data which is available that is integrated with this digital twin. Then you are able to help the discom integrate DERs, or basically solar or wind or distributed microgrids, or rooftop solar, or as in India, there are different names for these distributed energy resources. They are able to optimally integrate and accelerate the transition from grid power or coal power to solar power or wind power or whatever the uh, you know uh, new renewable resource or generation of energy they want to integrate, transition to, right? Because of because of this digital twin effort, because of these integrations of different data points and different sensors, because of these analytics on top of this digital twin, in terms of optimal integration of solar, there are a lot of impacts of people and planet which is available to the discom, in terms of uh, financial health of the discom. AT&C loss, there is something called aggregate technical loss of these power utility companies. You can effectively x-ray the entire grid with the pulse of your finger. You can ask any questions on top of these data points, just like you and I asked questions to ChatGPT, and we get answers to these questions. Similarly, discom officials can ask questions to this AI because of these integrations, and get effective answers to what is the health of an asset, what are the billing efficiency of a particular jurisdiction or an area in the distribution grid, and so on and so forth, right? And obviously, because you have effectively virtualized the entire grid, you are opening up a whole another world of something called digital energy stack. What that means is that this is the foundation for peer-to-peer trading of energy. This is the foundation for prosumerization of consumers. Meaning, if I am a retail, consumer, I can supply solar power from my rooftop to the grid. I can earn money. I can become a solarpreneur and things like that, right? So those are the kinds of things that are unlocked because of this. The way we, position this is that this is effectively the iPhone moment for distribution grids. When the iPhone came in the hands of every consumer, GPS came in the hands of every consumer, and because of that, a lot of location-based services like Uber, food delivery, dating services got unlocked. Similarly, because of this kind of digitization, a lot of energy trading services, distributed, uh, you know, demand-side management services, and a bunch of other unknown things which we can't even imagine right now will get unlocked because of this digitization of grids, right? Quickly, without talking too much about it, let me just show you a quick video how are we doing this basically. So there are two aspects of it. The first is called the digitization app, which is effectively helping digitize the grid, right? And I'll just show you a quick video. Can you play the video on the left? So there is something called a the video on the left. Yeah. So this is called a lineman app. This helps the the power utility companies digitize their grid. You are effectively selecting a line or a feeder. Then just like you and I drop a pin for calling Uber cab, similarly you can drop a pin to fetch the location of that particular asset that you're digitizing, the latitude, longitude. Let's say the asset is distribution transformer. Then there are different data points available for quick digitization, right? What is the power factor of this transformer? What are the ratings of this transformer? How many customers is this transformer connected to, and so on and so forth, right? You can take visual, photos or proof of the transformer. This is the actual digitization process, and then many other details, right? So you go on and taking details usually takes anywhere between 30 to 60 seconds to digitize one asset in this form factor, right? So this is what is called the lineman app, which helps in digitization. You can pause this video. Thank you. You can pause this video. And then could you go to the next screen? So once this digitization is done, you see something like this. Can you play this video, please? Yeah. So once you digitize the grid with the help of lineman app, the actual entire grid, this is the actual DISCOM, a power utility company in the state of Rajasthan. Millions of assets are digitized, and you're able to do a lot of analytics on top of it. One of the analytics that is being shown here is called load flow analysis. You can see, so what you're seeing here is that you can selecting a date and a timestamp, a 15-minute window, and you can see what kind of power is flowing in which parts of the grid. So the blue power is the grid electricity, which is the coal electricity. The green color at, let's say, 7 a.m. in the morning, the green color is effectively the solar electricity, and the pink color is the mixture of grid and solar, right? And let's say when you seek the slider to, let's say, 12 noon in the afternoon, when there is peak sun and peak solar available, like this, you will see that the entire grid is slowly being powered by entire solar electricity, right? This is effectively only possible, these kind of analytics is only possible because of a digital twin of a distribution grid. You can pause the video. And then obviously, you can play this video, please. You can play this video. Yeah. And because you have digitized the grid, there are multivariate benefits of this. This is one of the other benefits, that engineers of power utility companies can do a lot of simulations on the grid without actually having to make changes in the live grid, in the physical grid. So what you're seeing here is that this is something called, it's a slightly technical thing called a single line diagram of a distribution grid, which is effectively the simplified version of the grid that you just saw in the map view, right? So these are substations, these are different lines, denote different things, like a 33 kV feeder or 11 kV feeder. You can expand and you can play around with this and see and do a bunch of analytics, which is very helpful for running a distribution company or a power utility company, right? You can pause this. And this is one of my last slides and one of my most favorite features. You can play this video. This is what we call a custom GPT, something like the chat GPT, which all of us have used by now. This is a custom GPT for power utility companies, which is effectively integrates with all the other IT solutions of the DISCOM and helps you answer questions just like you and I would chat on WhatsApp. This is you can basically, yeah. So there are different categories of questions. You can ask any question just like writing text to your friend. Once the question is selected, it is loaded in the chat window. You can edit the question here itself, like this video. You can change the area, the jurisdiction, the amount of data that you want in terms of visualization. And then you can change date range, what date window that you're looking for. You can do all kinds of configurations on this chat, and then once you're done, you can also select what kind of visualization you want to look at. Once you're done, you can just send, hit send, and within seconds the AI actually answers you the question in form of this graph, right? Or any kind of question basically. This is very powerful for a DISCOM, and we can probably hear it from the CEOs themselves, that you get access to analytics, decision support within seconds, which was earlier not possible without a technology like AI. Thank you so much for your time. That's it.
Thank you so much, Mayank. This was a real-time example of how digitization and digitalization is helping the utilities with the on-ground operations. With that, let me just move on to the real beneficiaries of these kind of technologies. And if I can just introduce our panelist for today, Mr. Abhishek Ranjan, who is the Chief Executive Officer of one of the leading utilities in Delhi, BSES Rajdhani Power Limited.
He's leading utility scale innovation across renewables, demand side management, energy efficiency, storage, and advanced energy analytics. He has more than 2 decades of experience in power and IT, and has been previously, heading different renewables, DSM, energy efficiency, and multiple other things at DRPL. We welcome you here, sir.
Thank you.
His co-panelist is Mr. Rodolfo Cirol. He's the Director of Environment and Sustainability at CPFL Energia in Brazil. He's helped steer one of the country's largest power companies towards ambitious climate, biodiversity, and decarbonization goals. With, again, over 2 decades of experience in the energy sector, you've played a prominent role in Brazil's sustainability community, including leadership within the UN Global Compact Network Brazil. Right? We welcome you. Let me just start with the first utility, the BSES Rajdhani Power Limited. And Mr. Ranjan, if I can say that DRPL has been experimenting with digital twins, AI technologies across multiple pillars in Delhi. What are some early results, and how are they changing the day-to-day operations for you in the DISCOM?
Thanks, Riddhi, and thanks, I say again, for this. See, the presentation that we all saw on digital twin, how the utility is transforming its grid, in fact, making the grid more communicable. Why do we need this? So first is, many of us would have shopped on an app called Amazon. Now, you would have seen the Amazon experience. You want something, you simply place an order there, you have an e-marketplace, and select something, choose a delivery date, and get it delivered. If you're not satisfied, no question asked, you can return. Somebody will come, pick it up, and get away. We've gone one step more. You want it now, in next 10 minutes. There is another app, Amazon Now. So you want groceries, you want televisions, you want motorbikes, you want anything. This story went to telecom. So you want a mobile SIM delivered to your house? Yes, it can be done within a matter of few hours, 2 or 3 hours, and here you are. You have a new mobile connection and activated immediately. We are moving to that direction where you want to have electricity connection. Yes, we can be given to you in 24 hours. And why not? It can be even in lesser time. That is the kind of consumer experience the utilities are moving towards, especially cities like Delhi, where the expectation for the utility is very, very high. Now, traditionally, the new connection business has been a very troublesome business. Why? You do a technical feasibility of the last mile. The grids are not digitized. You never know what sort of state of affairs the last mile connectivity, the lines and cables are there. Now, these kind of digital twinning of the grid, it tells you as a utility which all network, how much connections you can release. Suppose some customer has asked for a 10 kilowatt connection. Without going there, I save in time and I can tell, yes, 10 kilowatt feasible or 5 kilowatt feasible, not feasible at all. Imagine one more thing. Why do you want to go to utility to ask? Utilities are going to give you the access to such websites, digital twin, and you yourself can gaze, and that is called pre-feasibility, which is happening in Europe, for example, in Germany, for example. So you as a consumer, you want a connectivity at your house, you know the lat long, you simply enter over there and it gives in a matter of seconds whether it is feasible or not, how it is getting powered. And then you go to the utility, yes, I have done it, I know that you can give it to me at this location, this much kilowatt, and therefore I am applying. So therefore I am doubly sure when I apply for connectivity, I'll get it, and I'll get it in 24 hours. Right? So this is a customer delight, and this is all about communities. The future is democratic and distributed. So this digital twin is not about introducing only efficiency in the operation of the distribution utility, but it is more about consumer rights. It's more about empowering communities. It's more about communities shouldering responsibility of grid management together with the utilities. So you are having smart vehicles, electric vehicles, you are going to have two-wheelers or four-wheelers. You are going to have a portable storage with you, maybe with a solar rooftop or without rooftop solar. You are going to have smart ACs or heat pumps, which you want to trade off. And you don't want to do it alone. So what you say is, okay, I'll hire an aggregator. Now, how all these things can happen? And why do you want to do this? You'll want to do this, A, because now you are no longer a unidirectional consumer of electricity. You are also a producer of electricity, negative demand and generation as well. So therefore, your role has enhanced. You are becoming an equal opportunity grid operator, if I may say, because that is the way the grids are evolving. So the communities or the consumers are no longer a passive consumer of electricity services. They are active participants in the overall ecosystem. So yes, so this can't happen, and in India we are doing that. So this can't happen unless until you have this basic tool called digital twin. So I am sure this digital twin, the demo that we saw, this is just the beginning, and this is very basic. There are lot many innovations which are going to happen, especially with the AI coming in. So over to you, and Nidhi.
Thank you so much, and thanks for putting the horse in front of the cart. You've really nailed it to the head, where you are saying consumer is important here. It's not the supply which is driving things. It's a consumer which is more important, and saying how can you make the services which are more consumer centric. Rodolfo, if I can turn to you, CPFL has been at the forefront of Brazil's grid modernization. What is driving your digital transformation journey, and where do you see the biggest impact?
Okay, hello everybody, and I would say thank you for inviting me, and the moment to share some ideas about the power sector in Brazil. CPFL has a huge assets here in Brazil. Just to imagine, we have over 10 million meters, we say consumers in Brazil, where we deliver energy. This means that we support over 30 million Brazilians with a high quality of energy. Our company understands that digitalization is a tool to improve efficiency, to improve the renewable opportunities for everyone in the energy transition. So, just to imagine how CPFL is big, we have a grid, distribution grid, that we can surround the Earth 5 times. So it's a huge. We have over 150 substations, and our grid was built to provide the energy from generation by transmission to distribution in one way. But nowadays, with distribution generation, we have both ways to deal with the energy. So the solar panels can produce energy during the day and use the system, and the consumers can use this, and at night they use the energy from other sources. So our system must be adapted to deal with those challenges. So when you are talking about two directions in the same transmission line, we needed some adaptations of the system. And so to operate this and to maintain the security of the system is a big challenge. Of course, we are facing new challenges such as hydrogen production, batteries, EV, electric vehicles that are using those energies in a very different way. And we needed to understand how the consumers will use and will depend of the energy all day long. In CPFL, we are installing 1,600,000 smart meters by 2029. just to face this. And a big challenge that we have in Brazil, that is delinquency. Delinquency is a big challenge for emerging markets, but we understand that this is a way to solve a big problem that we needed to dispatch some teams to give the bill for the customers. And if you have this, we can send by email or some other ways to provide this. In other hand, we have some opportunities, such as to offer some different services for them. For example, we can support and deliver energy with different prices every single minute. Depends of the price, and I can give the signal of the price for the customer, and they can adapt it to receive the cheaper energy all day long. But in case that they want only renewable energy to watch TV or wash the clothes, they can use it in a moment that the renewables in a high production. So this is empower the customers to pushing the energy transition, and our company is preparing ourselves to face those challenges. But the biggest one is to maintain the high production of renewables. Our grid, for example, is integrated in Brazil, and we have 90% of renewables. This is a big challenge to maintain the quality of the service. But we believe with digitalization, we can combine and equalize all those energies.
That's really good to hear that you've been actually bringing out the challenges that you're facing and also the innovative solutions, the time of day, some of which Abhishek and his utility are also piloting in Delhi. If I may just turn to you, Abhishek, the utilities are increasingly with these kind of technologies getting data rich. How are you, with all this data coming in and the numbers coming in, how are you building a culture of a data-driven utility which can utilize the information which is coming directly from the consumer and probably putting in the innovations like time of day, demand side management, and if you can just share some lights on that.
No, wonderful. So, see, the data avalanche or data is humongous. So, we are the utility, one of the utilities in India where over 3 million customer meter data we have for, they're not smart meters, but we have the data for the last 20 years consumption, humongous amount of data we are sitting on. Now, one is obviously utility data lake that we have. So, where in the utility data lake you have the data from multiple sources, multi-sources. What are multi-sources? So, you talk about SCADA, you talk about consumer meters, you talk about our own grid meters, you talk about ADMS, you talk about sensors which are there on the different portions of the grid, like for example circuit breakers, relays and all. Now all these data points are being stored in what we call SCADA and OMS, for example outage management system, and then now coming up of the demand management and demand side management basically. So this is being fed into the local 11 kV feeder meter demand. So for example, if you talk about net demand estimation, which is net of solar and demand response, that is being captured at the 11 kV feeder level and even at the DT level. So we are now doing the projection of the demand at the DT level as well as the 11 kV feeder level. Now, but the important part is, it's not only about technology, it's about adoption of the technologies by the employees of the company. That is more important and more challenging. So therefore, we are utilizing technology to change the way we are doing businesses. I'll give you some example. We have online preventive maintenance application where all the checklists and the standards have been digitized. So these checklists are there with the linemen, with the preventive maintenance staff, and this is connected to our centralized AI powered platform. So when they go to sites for doing a preventive maintenance of a transformer, for example, so they have to click the check boxes and click the pictures and also assess what is the state of affairs over there, and that is being fed into the AI enabled platform, and that platform says, okay, this is to be done to this, and then the next crew member comes in for actually doing the maintenance, right? So one is assessment and then the maintenance, and these are all getting baseline. So this change has not been easy. So for the years people have been used to doing manual maintenance. So this change has to be using capacity building of the people. We invested and we are investing a lot in the capacity building of the last mile, like linemen, for example. AR, VR based training module, augmented reality and virtual reality based training module for detecting faults in transformers, ring main units, feeder pillars, power transformers, underground cables, preventive maintenance tests, etc. Apart from this, the service engineers as well, and sending them to utilities interaction and asking them to change the culture. So sending them to capacity building programs for mid management and senior management, because the cultural change has to happen at every layer. So the complete leadership has to change the mindset as to how the companies is going to leverage technologies to change the way it works. SOPs getting digitized, manuals getting digitized, and learning modules getting digitized, case-based learning modules, which is not only classroom, but then, as I said, AR and VR enabled learning modules. So this becomes a very important continuous learning journey, and that is going to help build the consumer, the employees capable of leveraging all the technologies. Otherwise, technologies will come and technologies will go. Nobody is going to use it. So that is the biggest challenge, and that's how we are leveraging technology to make our employees capable of using the technology to give better service to the consumers.
I think that's a very important point that you've raised in terms of getting digitalization and all these efforts on digital twinning, and how can you enable change management within the discoms. That's a very important aspect that often needs to be integrated into these kind of things which we're doing on ground. Rodolfo, on similar lines, if I can ask you on another use case of digitalization, can you say how digitalization can be used as a tool to address extreme weather? And how can you actually project that and utilize this technology for that?
Yeah, as I told you, we have a power, a huge grid, and of course we needed to adapt the grid with some equipments to work in both sides to deliver energy and support the energy, and we needed to put all this in a system that manages the operation. To cover 100% of our grid, we need establish one partnership with Schneider, where we have been working on the advanced distribution management system. This means that we have one system that monitor all demands that we have in our grid, second by second, and we can use some self-healings to support some troubles that we have in our grid, such as one outage. When we have some outage, one car crash or some weather event, and supposedly 100 people stay without energy, we needed to dispatch one team to identify where the trouble is. But if we have this system, the system reconfigure all the network, and maybe we can reduce the number of the people out of energy for only 100 people in a second. And our team in a field can be directed for the problem, so we can solve and maintain the quality of service for much more people. So this is the way that we are facing the challenges with a huge operation, facing the challenges that we have all day long, but even the climate events. In the climate extreme events that we had here in Brazil, in the South Brazil, in Rio Grande do Sul state, but in São Paulo too, we could deal with the challenges within a very good shape. So the customers recognize our company as a committed with the high quality service by the quality of system that support all the operations. But digitalization and those equipments such as self-healing are the key to provide this. And nowadays we are a benchmark for other facilities in Brazil to implement this in their operations.
I feel you've brought out a very important aspect on disaster resilience of utilities here, and this is also something that Abhishek and I were discussing yesterday. That how having sensors and digital twins at different locations, how can you actually map out the faults? But Abhishek, what it brings me to is while you have all these applications and while you see a lot of use cases which are coming out of it, you also need to have very robust skills and mechanisms to absorb what is being thrown out of the technology here. So you've been leading on many of these initiatives as a utility. What are the skills and capacities which are required to implement initiatives like this? If you can just share your thoughts.
Sure. So rain gods are very kind now in Amazon. Okay. Yeah. So when you talk about the skills, and I assume you're talking about skills for the employees of the utilities who are going to use them and implement them.
That's correct.
First and foremost skill is open to learning. It's not about technology skills, it's about open to change, open to learn. Flexible open-mindedness is very, very important. So when we deploy people for such interventions, we choose them through an interview process internal and see whether they have an analytical bent of mind, open to question things and not do the things they have been doing for the last 20 years. So that is very, very important. So once you have them, then you train them on basics of the technology. And for example, we have our digital team. We are hiring people from diverse backgrounds and also reskilling our internal employees to understand why the things are behaving that way. For example, if ChatGPT is behaving that way, what goes behind it? Or if a service provider for demand forecasting has coded a ensemble demand forecasting model, my own team member is able to create her own ensemble model using technologies, using languages like Python, etc. and providing them with the tools, especially cloud-enabled tools. So, and then what we are trying to do is we are developing our in-house tools as well, which is going to give us more reliance on our self-developed tools and not be dependent on everything which is third party, right? Now, of course, there is a JD, job description to each of the roles, job roles, and they are getting enriched. So whether it is in-house, as I said, there has to be a filtering as to whether the people are able to absorb that or not. We are placing them for trainings across institutes of repute. Like in India, you have Indian School of Business, Indian Institute of Management, or Indian Institute of Technology. We have MOUs with them, and we send them for such interventive program with more of case-based learning. It's not about only theoretical, it's more of case-based learning. And that's how we put them more and more on the sample projects which are done on the ground. For example, when you talk about storage project, the niche skill is how do you physically integrate storage into existing 11 kV grid. and that is not taught in the universities. So that comes from the ground itself. So while you are enabling your people to do that, we are also creating case studies out of which can be there in our iSmart system. So online iSmart systems are there. You are creating repositories and case studies which can be reused. So this is a learning culture which is getting used, and it's a vicious cycle.
I think that brings us to a very important point on while we are still on the learning curve, what are the things that you have to share with other utilities? And Rodolfo, if I can put that question more concretely to you. So looking beyond Brazil, Abhishek has really highlighted the learnings that are coming out of equipping the DISCOM officials to implement these changes. What advice would you give to the other global south utilities who are trying to balance, who are trying to do forecasting, sustainability, innovations? What is the one advice that will give to you?
Extremely weather events, I believe that the challenge of nowadays is to combine every possibilities that we have in terms of energy system around the world. We are talking about renewables, we are talking about EV, we are talking about batteries, and many other sources and users. This means that we needed to have one strong data protection. We needed to have a very high quality of cybersecurity, but we need partnership with good system support. Of course, the complexity of the dispatch of the system will increase, and the solution for distribution companies is to reduce the dimension of the grid. I mean that microgrids in the future will be the reality in terms of energy. And all utilities around the world must learn how to operate without the regulator, without the central operation, but the microgrid will be the reality in coming years. And this is a new one for Brazil, for example, but other emerging markets too. And the regulation must advance in this direction, because every single week appear a new company with a new solution, and everyone wants to have one self production in the specific amount, in the specific time, and this will demand a data management that is impossible to understand, that we will deal with this in a global way. So I believe that we need to reduce for a microgrids regions, or maybe neighborhoods where the renewable energy will balance all the production and the use all the time. So this is a huge potential for new business, new companies, new jobs, and for everyone to have the quality service in terms of energy that they want.
That's great. Looking at the rain gods and looking at the watch, this was a particularly interesting chat that I've had in multiple years now, where you've got to know the concrete things which are under application and what needs to be done to make it better. So, with that, I would like to thank both of you. Turn towards my colleague, Ms. Luisa, who's the lead in Brazil for GAP. Luisa has more than 20 years of experience in renewable energy sector, and she's also the member of Council for Engineers for the Energy Transition, which is a global high-level body of engineers that serve as advisors to the UN Secretary General. With an overview from both of you in terms of the concrete operations which are happening on ground from a utility perspective. I just wanted to bring in Louisa here, who will give us a broader overview of where digitalization and digitization is in Brazil, and then sort of share your experiences in that, Louisa.
Okay, I'm gonna try to speak very loud so you can hear me better because of the rain. So thank you for having me here. I will provide you an overview of digitalization for low distribution grids in Brazil. So I just want to start saying that we are talking about a grid that's 88% composed of renewable energy, and 25% of that is solar and wind. So 9 years ago, we had just 3% of wind and no solar. So it's a big transformation that we are talking about. Also, if we look at distributed generation alone, it's about 20% of our generation already. It's 42 gigawatts of energy, and more than 5 million consumers are having distributed generation. When you look at the transmission, the capacity of transmission lines has grown 50% in the last 9 years. So we are talking about one of the largest integrated grids in the world. I think it's the second after China. So it's 176,000 kilometers of transmission grids, which is a large extension, right? But besides all of these achievements, we are experiencing the last 4 years excess of solar and wind energy. This is a big challenge. In the last 4 years, only in 2025, we have we cut 18% of solar and wind because of excess supply. So there was no demand enough for this energy. So this is a big challenge for Brazil. We are talking about just in 2020, in the last 4 years, $1.2 billion of loss for the sector. So we are in a very critical point right now, because if this is not resolved, we're gonna stop adding renewable energy, and we don't want that to happen. So I think we need to think about digitalization, we need to think about modeling to help the operator, to help the utilities, and to help the ministry to solve this problem. And what about the grids? When we talk about the energy grids and we think about digitalization, let's start talking about smart metering. We estimate now that we're talking about 5 million smart meters in Brazil. This is only 5% of our total smart meters that are installed. So it's very little. But we are in a very good moment because the utilities are leaving the pilot phase, when they would deploy smart metering without having a lot of intelligence on how to deploy it. I was talking to Rodolfo before this event, and he was telling me that CPFL is investing on 1.6 million smart meters. That's almost 16% of their services. But they're doing it based on where I'm going to install the smart meters where I have more delinquency, So people that are not paying the bill. So they're going to install the meters in order for them not to go to the field and have to cut the customers. They are using that as a way to reduce, customers that not pay and the cost of cutting them. So I think it's a critical moment for large-scale adoption, and the government is working on having new regulation on that. So in the middle of 2025, this year, the Ministry of Energy has launched a new regulation that aims to replace all the meters we have. So I'm talking about 6 million meters in 10 years to become smart meters. And this regulation, it aims to implement a gradual digitalization of the grid. And it has 3 main objectives. Smart metering, like I said, The second objective is to have open data for all the utilities. So they will need to implement open APIs to ensure interoperability of the grids. So anyone, any company can access this data and see, for example, I can install a data center here, I can add more power to this residential customer. So this is going to change the type of information and that is available for the consumers and the producers of energy. And the last point of the regulation that's also very important and I would say innovative is that the ministry is suggesting that we have a second opinion on independent verifiers. So if you implement a digitalization solution, you can hire someone that's a third-party opinion to verify if this is quality, action, and this is safe, and this is according to safety instructions. So this is what the government is suggesting, and it's also going to add that to the renewal of the concessions. So in Brazil, a lot of the utilities, they are under concession for 30 years, and in the next 5 years, we're going to have a lot of these companies to renew their concessions. In that sense, the government is asking for digitalization investments. So we talked about smart metering. When we talk about AI, I think we have a lot of opportunity to improve and implement that type of technology for grid optimization. And when we talk about grid automation and remote control, I can say that in Brazil we are it's very established, the SCADA and GIS systems. So I would say like all the utilities, they will have that in place. But when we talk about advanced distributed management systems, like Rodolfo explained and give an example, and I think CPFL implemented that 5 years ago, a lot of the utilities are still working on that. So I think this is something that we need to work more. It's challenging because we need to ensure interoperability with other systems and integration. And for SCADA and GIS, for example, we do have that for transmission lines and sub-transmission, but we still have a big challenge to bring it to the distribution level. So I think we have a lot to evolve on that. So to summarize what I said, I think Brazil has an opportunity to improve a lot of digitalization efforts. We are not, we have evolved in the last years, but we are in a moment that we are moving from pilots to scale. So I think there is a lot of opportunities to learn from other countries and learn from other power systems, from India, for example, and other places, how we can improve the service, how we can improve quality, and provide more and ensure security of energy supply. So I will stop there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luisa. And with that, I'm cautious that we are just 4 minutes over time. But just to summarize in a minute, this was a particularly enlightening session because, we saw the different advancements which are coming out in the two countries, India and Brazil. With this focus session on the Global South and India and Brazil as concrete examples, we saw how is the regulation looking like, how are the leadership in the utilities, what are the actions being taken, how are we skilling the utility staff, what are the typical use cases of AI and digitization. And of course, we saw an example from India, which is a live example of how digital twins and AI in terms of DUET are being put forward. I really hope that these, the learnings from this session actually feed on to a larger, goal of sharing the lessons between the Global South with countries like India and Brazil in the forefront, and how that learning can be passed on to multiple other countries, including the ISA member countries in the Global South. Thank you so much. You've been a wonderful audience. I thank you for your time.